Tanya with NV Property Management. Today we're going to talk about Utah rental rights for both landlords and tenants. In Utah, the relationship between a landlord and a tenant is established once a tenant pays rent in exchange to inhabit a property. And this automatically grants both parties certain rights and responsibilities under Utah Code Title 57, Chapter 16. When renting out a property, it's important that you familiarize yourself with Utah law in order to understand and discharge your landlord duties better. In Utah, the tenants have the right to continue occupying their rented property until the landlord has followed the proper eviction process to remove them. They also have the right to live in a property that abides by the minimum health and safety codes. They have the right to live in peace and quiet enjoyment. They have the right for repairs to be done within a reasonable time period after requesting them. They have the right to have their security deposit returned within a period of 30 days after moving out. Tenants also have the right to break their rental agreement early for certain legally justified reasons, such as landlord harassment and domestic violence. Tenants have the right to be treated without any discrimination on the basis of race, color, nationality, sexual orientation, income source, or any other protected class. Tenants have the right to be provided proper notice prior to landlord entry. They also have the right to be provided certain mandatory disclosures. And lastly, tenants have the right to change the locks with the permission of the landlord. Landlords must honor this request if they've been a victim of sexual assault or domestic abuse. Paying rent isn't the only responsibility tenants in Utah have. In addition to unpaid rent, if a renter refuses to follow these other rules, the process of early lease termination can begin. Other tenant responsibilities in the state of Utah under law include maintaining the rental unit in a safe, habitable condition, abiding by all housing codes that materially affect their health and safety, make use of all provided appliances and facilities reasonably, abide by all terms of the lease agreement, including smoking regulations within the rental unit. They must also keep all fixtures clean and sanitary at all times. Tenants must maintain all carbon dioxide and smoke detectors. They must also take care of all repairs that they are responsible for, not including reasonable wear and tear. Tenants are responsible to not disturb the peace and quiet of neighbors. And lastly, they're also responsible to not deliberately cause neglect or careless property damage to their rented premises. If a renter fails to uphold these responsibilities, they can be evicted. On the flip side, landlords in Utah have the following rights as per Utah law. Landlords have the right to require a security deposit as part of the move-in costs for any rental units. They have the right to charge whatever amount of rent and raise it by whatever amount at any point during the rental agreement or tenancy. They have the right to enter a tenant's rented unit after serving them a 24 hours advance notice. They have the right to evict a renter or renters for violating a term of their lease agreement. And the following responsibilities for landlords in Utah also include carrying out judicious eviction processes when removing tenants from their rented premises, abide by the security deposit rules when requiring a security deposit from Utah tenants. They must not discriminate against a renter on the basis of protected classes under the Utah Fair Housing laws. Landlords must carry out requested repairs within a reasonable period of time after being notified. They must also ensure the rented unit abides by the Utah habitability in regards to health and safety. They must mitigate damages after the tenant breaks their rental agreement. And landlords are also required to make the following disclosures to prospective tenants. Number one is lead-based paint concentrations. If your rental home was built prior to 1978, you must let prospects know about any issues of lead-based paint within the home. Number two, identity of property manager or owner. You need to let prospects know about the name and address of the person that is tasked with responsibility of managing the rental property during the tenancy. And finally, methamphetamine contamination. This applies to any rental property where there is known use of methamphetamine by a prior tenant. If a landlord fails to disclose any of the above items, it would be against the law. Now let's talk about tenant evictions. As a landlord in Utah, you are legally allowed to evict a tenant for any of the following reasons. Number one, failure by the tenant to pay rent during their tenancy or as stipulated in the lease. Number two, violation of a term of the lease agreement. Number three, failure by the tenant to move out of their rented premises after their lease or tenancy has ended. Number four, violation of the lease as the renter is conducting illegal activities. Number five, illegal subleasing of the property by the tenant as stipulated in the lease. And finally, failure to pay security deposits. Every state in the US has a security deposit law in place. Knowing and following the rules therein can help protect you in case of deposit disputes if you have with your tenant. In addition, landlords should also check any additional laws that their local government may have. The following are some laws that govern security deposits in Utah. Number one, landlords are free to charge a non-refundable security deposit as long as they state what it is in the lease agreement. Number two, landlords must only make certain deductions to a tenant security deposit. For example, landlords can deduct from a security deposit in cases of unpaid rent or in the case of tenant caused negligence or damage in the property. Number three, landlords need to return their tenant security deposit within 30 days after moving out. Failure to abide by these laws has consequences. For example, if landlords fail to return their tenant security deposit on time, the court may award the tenant not only their full deposit, but also damages and court costs. Now let's talk about fair housing. The Fair Housing Act prohibits landlords from discriminating against tenants on the basis of certain protected classes. The protected classes in Utah include those at the federal level plus those at the state level, such as sexual orientation, sources of income, and gender identity. The Utah Labor Commission Anti-Discrimination and Labor Division is the government agency tasked with handling housing discrimination complaints in Utah. The last topic we want to cover today is landlord entry. Landlords in the state of Utah can enter their tenant's rented unit after serving them a notice of at least 24 hours under state laws or as otherwise stated in the signed lease agreement. The only exception for advance notice is in case of an emergency where landlords can enter in urgent circumstances. All right, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more, want a team that's knowledgeable about Utah law, get in touch with our team here at MB Property Management. We have the tools and experience you need to make the most of your real estate investment. Give us a call today at 801-337-4337 or visit our website at nvpm.com. That's envypm.com. See you next time.